Welcome. You are listening to Sleepy Historian. If this is your first time here, you do not need to prepare. You do not need to focus. You do not need to stay awake. You can let your eyes close whenever they wish. You can let the voice continue without effort. If sleep comes, that is fine. If it does not, that is also fine. Tonight, you are not being rushed anywhere. This is a history meant to move slowly, a history designed for late hours, when the day has already loosened its grip. A history that understands that attention fades in and out, and that memory does not need sharp edges. You are here to listen, or simply to rest while listening happens around you. Imagine a medieval town at night, not the version you may have seen in books or films, not banners, not feasts, not torchlit celebrations. Instead, imagine the quiet version. Most windows are dark. Doors are closed. The street is uneven beneath your feet, worn down by centuries of passing weight. Stone holds the day's cold and releases it slowly, long after sunset. The town is not asleep. It is resting. And even now it continues to function. This is the part that often goes unnoticed. Medieval society did not pause when people slept. It did not wait for daylight to exist again. It continued, quietly, because certain people did not stop. They never appear in grand paintings. Their names were not written into records. If they failed, a failure was not dramatic. It was slow. It was indirect. It was discovered only later. A fire that did not relight. A bell that did not ring. Water that did not arrive. In medieval life, survival depended less on moments of heroism and more on the uninterrupted continuation of ordinary work. Tonight you will spend time with those quiet jobs. You may have heard that medieval life was shaped by kings and battles, by castles and crusades, by sudden violence and dramatic change. But most medieval people lived their entire lives without ever seeing a battlefield. They did not experience history as a series of events. They experienced it as routine. They woke cold. They worked tired. They slept briefly. And then they did it again. The truth that often surprises people, the truth that changes how medieval life feels when you look closely, is that society did not depend on its leaders nearly as much as it depended on its labor. Not loud labor, not celebrated labor, quiet labor, jobs that did not announce themselves, jobs that were only noticed when they were missing. This is the world you are slowly entering. As you listen, you may notice that there is no urgency here. Danger exists, but it is not sudden. Cold is present, but it does not attack, it settles. Hunger does not arrive all at once, it grows patient. Failure is rarely dramatic. Sometimes, morning simply does not come for everyone. Sometimes, someone does not wake again. And life continues around that absence, adjusting quietly. This is how survival felt for most people. Not heroic, not tragic in a single moment, just ongoing. You are not a noble here. You are not important in the way stories usually define importance. You are necessary. Necessary in the way that hands are necessary, in the way that repetition is necessary, in the way that repetition is necessary, in the way that doing the same thing every day without recognition keeps everything else from collapsing. You will move through work that begins before dawn, work that never truly stops, work done in shadow, away from public view, and work that left no written record at all. As you listen, time will stretch. Hours will feel longer than they are. Moments will repeat, slightly altered. Vocabulary will circle back on itself, gently, without insistence. If your mind drifts, you can let it. The story does not demand that you follow every word. Picture the town again. The ground is damp. There has been frost recently. Your breath shows in the air, even when you are not exerting yourself. Somewhere nearby, a door opens quietly and closes again. Someone steps into the dark with purpose but without ceremony. They are not early. They are simply continuing. In medieval society, many jobs had no clear beginning or end. They were not shifts. They were conditions. You worked until the work allowed you to stop. and often even rest was partial. Sleep came in fragments, meals were simple. Warmth was shared, borrowed, or rationed. The town depended on this rhythm, this slow grinding continuity. If too many small jobs stopped at once, nothing dramatic would happen immediately. But within days the system would weaken. Within weeks it would strain. Within months it would fail. Quiet work prevented that failure. As sleepy historian, I will not rush you through this. We will move slowly. We will stay with sensations longer than necessary. We will let time pass without marking it. You will feel the weight of carried water, the ache of standing in cold air, the tiredness that does not disappear with sleep. You will notice how often medieval survival relied on waiting. Waiting for grain to grind, waiting for wax to cool, waiting for daylight, waiting for sound to confirm that everything is still functioning. Waiting was work, and so was endurance. If at any point you feel yourself drifting, that is expected. This history is designed to be listened to in pieces, to fade and return, to be half remembered. Even if you fall asleep, the work continues. That too is fitting, because medieval society did not stop when individuals rested. It moved around them. It depended on others picking up the rhythm. Before we begin the first quiet job, take a moment, let your shoulders drop, let your jaw soften, let your breathing slow slightly, without forcing it. You do not need to imagine perfectly. You do not need to visualize clearly. The voice will carry you where it needs to. We will start before dawn, in the hours when the sky has not yet decided to lighten, when the town still belongs to those who rise not because they wish to, but because the work requires it. You will step into cold air. You will lift weight. You will walk familiar paths again and again. And slowly you will begin to understand how medieval society kept running, not through greatness, but through quiet persistence. You step outside before the light has decided to return. The sky is neither fully night nor morning yet. It is a dim, suspended color, gray pressed thin, stretched across the horizon. Cold settles immediately into your clothing, not sharply but thoroughly, as if it has been waiting. You are a water carrier. This is not a title that brings respect. It does not grant you authority. It does not come with ceremony. But without you, the day does not begin. You carry water because nearly everything depends on it. Bread, animals, cleaning, fire, life, and water in a medieval town does not arrive on its own. Your containers are already waiting, wooden buckets, reinforced with iron bands. They are never fully dry. They smell faintly of river and rope and age. When you lift them, even empty, your arms feel the familiar strain. You do not think about the weight ahead. You have learned not to. Thinking makes it heavier. Instead, you focus on routine, on sequence, on the order of steps that has become instinct. Lift. Settle the yoke across your shoulders. Adjust until the pressure balances. Step forward. The ground is uneven, as it always is. You know where the stones shift. You know where mud gathers after rain. Your feet find these places without your attention. Time for you is not measured in hours. It is measured in trips. The well sits at the edge of town, or sometimes beyond it, depending on where you are and how fortunate the settlement has been. This one is old. The stone lip is worn smooth from hands and rope. Generations have leaned here, waiting their turn. You are rarely the first and never the last. Even now, before dawn, you are not alone. Others move quietly, wrapped in cloaks, their faces indistinct. No one speaks unless necessary. Words feel too loud at this hour. The rope creaks as the bucket descends. You listen, as you always do, counting the seconds until it meets water. There is a sound when it does, a soft, hollow splash. You pull. The rope bites into your hands through the cloth. Cold transfers immediately. You do not flinch. You have learned that reacting only delays the inevitable. When the bucket clears the stone edge, it is heavier than you remember. It always is. Water shifts as you lift it, unstable, testing your balance. A single careless movement could spill it, and spilled water is lost effort, lost time, lost strength. You pour carefully into your containers. The sound is controlled, steady. You stop just before the brim. Overflow wastes weight you must still carry. When both buckets are full, you pause, not to rest, just to allow the weight to become familiar. There is a moment every time when your body adjusts, when muscles tighten in anticipation rather than surprise. Only then do you lift. The return walk is slower. Water pulls downward. It swings slightly with each step. Your shoulders compress under the yoke. Your breath fogs the air now. You breathe through your nose to avoid coughing. The cold air stings less that way. You pass closed doors, shuttered windows, sleeping animals. Most of the town does not know you are already working, and it does not need to. Your success is invisible when it goes well. If you arrive late, bread will be delayed. If you spill too much, washing will be postponed. If you do not arrive at all, questions will be asked, but only after inconvenience accumulates. This is how importance works here. Not immediate, not dramatic. Gradual. You stop at the first household. There is no greeting. You set the bucket down where it belongs. You nod, perhaps, if someone is awake enough to acknowledge you. Sometimes no one is there at all. You leave the water anyway. The bucket is lighter now. Not light, but manageable. You move on. As the sky begins to shift almost imperceptibly, your routine continues. Well, carry, deliver, return. The repetition is not boring to you. It is stabilizing. Each trip is the same, but never identical. Some mornings the rope is stiffer with frost. Some mornings the path is slick. Some mornings your arms ache sooner than expected. You notice these things without comment. Pain is not a signal to stop. It is information. Water carrying shapes your body. Your shoulders broaden. Your grip strengthens. Your back learns to compensate. But it also wears you down. Your joints stiffen in cold weather. Your hands crack despite care. Your sleep is shallow, interrupted by the knowledge that dawn comes whether you are ready or not. You do not imagine a future where this ends. Most medieval people do not. Work is not a phase. It is a condition. As more households receive their share, the town begins to stir. A door opens more fully. A voice speaks briefly. A fire is coaxed back to life. These things happen because water has arrived, not because of you, specifically, but because someone like you exists. You will not be thanked. Gratitude is reserved for things that feel optional. This is not optional by the time the sun finally clears the horizon. You have already been awake for hours. Your shoulders burn dully. Your hands are numb in places. You take a moment at the edge of the well to drink. The water is cold. It tastes of stone and earth. You do not linger. There are more trips to make. Animals will need water. Workshops will open. The day will demand its continuation. If you slow too much, the rhythm falters. And rhythm, here, is survival. Eventually someone else will take your place, not ceremonially, not officially. Your pace will slow, your grip will weaken. You will miss a day, then another. And someone younger will step into the space you leave. The buckets will still be filled, the rope will still creak, the well will still wait. Your absence will not be marked. Only continuity matters. As you walk your familiar path once more, the light strengthening almost reluctantly, you may feel something settle into you. A realization that medieval life was not held together by events, but by people willing, or required, to repeat necessary actions regardless of recognition. You are tired, but the town is awake, and because of that your work is already disappearing into the background. That is how it is meant to be. You wake while the town is still holding its breath, not fully asleep, not fully awake. The room is dark but not silent. There is the faint sound of embers shifting in the hearth, a soft settling noise, like something trying not to disappear. You are a firekeeper. Your responsibility is not to make fire from nothing. That knowledge exists, but it is slow and uncertain. Instead, your task is simpler and heavier. You keep fire alive. In medieval life, fire is never taken for granted. Once lost, it is difficult to regain. Friction takes time. Sparks are unreliable. Matches do not exist. Fire, when it dies completely, leaves a gap that spreads outward. Cold returns. Food cannot be prepared. Water cannot be heated. Work slows. Illness lingers. So someone must remain attentive even through the night. That someone is you. You rise carefully. Your joints protest quietly. You do not answer them. You wrap yourself in wool that smells faintly of smoke. It is the same wool you wore yesterday. It will be the same tomorrow. At the hearth, the fire has retreated. What was once flame is now glow. What was once heat is now memory. You kneel. Ash coats the stone floor, cool at the surface, warm beneath. You move it gently, exposing the heart of the fire. A dull orange pulse responds, not eagerly, not generously. But it is there. You feed it. Not too much, not too fast. Dry wood only, carefully chosen. Too damp, and it will smother the glow. Too thick, and it will demand flame the embers cannot provide. You wait. This waiting is part of the work. Your hands hover, close enough to feel warmth, far enough to avoid burns that would make tomorrow harder. Your breathing slows to match the fire's pace. When flame finally appears, it does so quietly. No sudden flare, no dramatic return, just a thin tongue of light, testing the air. You adjust the wood, you shield it from drafts, you stay. Fire keeping is not a single task. It is a series of small corrections. Too much ash, remove some. Too little air, open the draw slightly. Too much air, close it again. You learn to read fire the way others read faces. A crackle means hunger. A hiss means moisture. Silence means balance. You do not rush. Fire dislikes urgency. Outside, the night deepens before it fades. You are not alone in your wakefulness. Across the town, others tend embers in bakeries, forges, and communal halls. Each fire is separate, but the principle is the same. If too many go out, the morning will arrive colder, slower, harder. Your success will be invisible. No one thanks a warm room. They only notice when it is not. Hours pass without markers. There is no bell for this, no announcement. You judge time by how often you must adjust the wood, by how your knees begin to ache on the stone floor, by how the darkness outside thins almost imperceptibly. You stand occasionally to stretch, careful not to step too close to the hearth. Burns heal slowly, scars remain. A firekeeper with damaged hands does not last long. When the fire is stable again, you move to the next hearth. This one belongs to a family that will wake soon. Children, animals. Breakfast that depends on warmth. You repeat the process. Expose embers, feed gently. Wait, you do this without conversation. The fire does not need words. There are nights when fire fights you. Wood too damp, drafts too strong, embers too thin. On those nights you stay longer. You lean closer. You block the air with your body. You accept smoke in your lungs because flame is more important than comfort. Your eyes sting. You blink slowly, deliberately. Coughing too hard can scatter ash. Everything is measured. Fire keeping shapes your sense of time. You think in intervals. Not hours, not days. Moments of attention separated by stretches of quiet. This makes sleep uneven. You doze near the hearth, never fully letting go. Your body learns to wake at small changes, a shift in sound, a change in warmth. Rest becomes shallow, but constant. You are always partly working. By the time the first true light reaches the windows, the fires are alive again. Not roaring, not dramatic. Alive enough. The town begins to move. Someone stirs a pot. Someone warms water. Someone stretches cold hands near the hearth. They do not think of you. They do not need to. The fire answers their needs. That is enough. As you step back, Finally allowing yourself to sit, you feel the fatigue settle deeper. This tiredness does not spike, it spreads. You lean against the wall. You let your eyes close briefly. Not sleep, just rest. You know that if the fire falters again, you will feel it. Heat changes the air. Sound shifts. Your body will respond before your thoughts do. Eventually, someone else takes over. A baker arrives. A smith stirs coals. A householder adds wood without thinking. Your role dissolves quietly. You are no longer needed here. And yet, without your earlier work, none of this would have been possible. Fire will burn all day. It will be used, abused, neglected. But it began the morning alive, and that matters more than anyone realizes. You gather your things. Your clothes smell of smoke. They always will. You step outside into the gray light of early day. The cold feels different now, less sharp. The town is awake, and your work is already fading into routine. You climb before the town fully wakes. The stone steps are narrow and uneven, worn hollow at the center. Your hand finds the wall automatically, fingers tracing familiar grooves. The air inside the tower is colder than outside, trapped and unmoving. You are the bell ringer. Time for this town passes through your hands. Before clocks, before numbers carved into faces of brass, time is something heard rather than seen. It arrives as vibration, as echo, as a sound that spreads outward and then fades. Your work is to give that sound shape. The bell waits above you. It always does. Suspended in timber beams darkened by age and smoke, it does not move unless called. You step onto the platform. The rope hangs heavy, its fibers stiff with use. Your hands know where to grip. Your body knows how to brace. You do not ring because you feel like it. You ring because the moment has arrived. How you know that moment is difficult to explain. It is not precise. It is not exact. It is learned. Your sleep is divided. You do not rest for long stretches. You wake when the dark reaches a certain depth. You wake when the quiet feels complete. You rise without light. There is no need for it. The tower has taught you its shape. When you pull the rope, the bell does not respond immediately. There is a delay. Weight shifts. Metal resists. Then the sound comes, not sharp, full. It fills the space around you first, pressing against your chest. Then it escapes the tower, spilling into the streets. You release. The echo moves on without you. The first ringing marks prayer. Not everyone attends. Not everyone listens. But the sound reaches them anyway. It enters dreams. It reaches the half-awake. It sets the edges of the day. You wait. Waiting is part of the job. Between rings, there is nothing to do. You stand with your back against stone. You breathe slowly. You feel the faint vibration linger in the air. Your arms are already tired. The bell is not light. Each ringing has meaning. One for prayer, one for work, one for rest, one for warning. You do not improvise. A bell rung too early confuses the town. A bell rung too late disrupts routine. People depend on this sound without thinking about it. Farmers measure daylight by it. Workers adjust their pace. Meals are prepared because of it. Time moves when you say it does. As dawn approaches, the tower grows brighter. Light seeps through narrow openings, thin and cold. Dust floats, visible only now. You watch it drift. There is no rush. The bell will not ring again until it must. Ringing the bell shapes your body. Your shoulders thicken. Your hands toughen. Your hearing dulls slightly over the years. Not from a single sound, but from repetition. The vibration settles into you. Sometimes, even away from the tower, you feel it echo in your chest. There are nights when wind interferes. Sound carries unevenly. Some streets hear clearly, others barely at all. You adjust. You pull slightly harder. You ring twice where once was enough. No one thanks you for this adjustment. They simply wake on time. From the tower you see the town change. Shutters open. Smoke rises. Movement increases. You are above it, but not separate. You mark the moments. Others fill them. This is how order forms. Not through command, through repetition. Your work continues throughout the day, not constantly. In intervals, each time you climb, each time you pull, each time you wait. Fatigue accumulates quietly. Stone steps are harder to climb by evening. Your arms shake slightly more. You do not comment on this. Everyone's work does this to them. There will come a day when you misjudge the moment. Not by much, just enough. Someone will notice the bell was late, another will notice it was early. Nothing dramatic happens. But a mark is made. Soon after, someone else begins climbing the tower with you. Learning, listening. Eventually, you stop climbing. The bell continues. Time keeps moving. As evening approaches, your final ringing spreads across the town. Work slows. Light fades. You remain in the tower a moment longer than necessary. Not because you are sentimental, because your legs need time. You breathe. You listen to the echo dissolve. Then you descend. The bell hangs silent now. It will wait until called again, like you did, like the town does. You arrive before the grain does. That is how this work begins. The mill stands apart from the town, close to moving water, or on a rise where wind passes more reliably than people. It is always slightly damp here. Even on dry days, moisture lingers in the air, held by stone and wood. You are the miller. Your work does not announce itself. It hums, it grinds. It continues whether you are rested or not. The wheel is already turning when you step inside. Not fast, not slow. Enough. Water slides over worn boards, steady and indifferent. The sound never fully stops. Even at night, even in winter, it murmurs through the structure. A constant reminder that grain waits somewhere to be reduced. You listen before you touch anything. A change in sound matters. A lower pitch means resistance. A sharper one means imbalance. You hear these differences the way others hear voices. Grain arrives in sacks. Heavy, rough against the shoulder. You lift without ceremony. The weight pulls downward, compressing your spine. You adjust your stance. One foot slightly forward, the way you have learned, keeps the ache manageable. Each sack represents food for many people. Bread is not optional. It is not varied. It is not celebrated. It is survival, shaped into a round or a loaf. And before it becomes that, it must pass through you. You pour the grain slowly, too fast, and the stones choke. Too slow, and time stretches longer than it already does. The hopper fills. Grain shifts, settling with a dry whisper. You watch the stones, upper stone rotating, lower stone waiting. The space between them matters more than anything. Too close and flour scorches, too far and grain breaks unevenly. You adjust with small movements, half turns, quarter turns. Patience lives here. As the stones meet the grain, the sound deepens. A low, continuous grind. Flour begins to fall. It drifts downward like pale smoke, settling on everything. Your clothes, your hair, your skin. You inhale it despite yourself. No matter how careful you are, flour finds its way into your lungs. Over years it changes your breathing. Not enough to stop you working. Enough to remind you, milling does not happen in bursts. It happens for hours. The wheel turns, the stones rotate, the grain diminishes. You stand watching, listening, adjusting. Your feet grow numb from the cold floor. Your back tightens from stillness. You shift, you wait. Time moves differently here. The outside world measures morning and afternoon. You measure sacks emptied and sacks filled. There are days when the water slows. Drought, ice, debris caught where it should not be. On those days you wait. Waiting is still work. You clear what you can. You test the flow. You stand and listen again. Grain cannot be ground without motion. Motion cannot be forced. This is a lesson learned slowly. Flour must be consistent. If it is not, complaints arrive. Not loudly, not immediately. Someone will mention bread that did not rise. Someone else will mention grit between teeth. These are warnings. You adjust. You always adjust. The mill never truly rests. Even when you step away, even when your eyes close briefly against a wall, the wheel continues. You sleep in fragments. The sound of grinding seeps into your dreams. When it stops unexpectedly, you wake instantly. Silence is louder than noise here. Your hands develop a fine network of cracks. Flour dries the skin. Water softens it again. The cycle repeats. You rub grease into your palms when you remember. Often you forget. The work does not pause for comfort. Others depend on your pace. Too slow, and ovens sit idle. Too fast, and quality suffers. You walk the narrow line between demand and endurance. No one sees that line. They only notice bread. As evening approaches, the light shifts. Dust glows briefly, then disappears into shadow. The mill grows colder. You continue. There is always one more sack. Always another adjustment. Eventually, someone else arrives to take a turn, or no one does and you stay. It depends on the season, on the town, on the year. When you finally step outside, your ears ring with absence. The world feels too quiet. The flour you have made will be baked, eaten, forgotten. Your work will not be remembered. But tomorrow, the wheel will turn again. And you will listen. You work where the town prefers not to look. Downwind. Near water that already carries other burdens. Beyond the places where people gather without thinking. You are the tanner. Leather surrounds medieval life, but the work that creates it is kept apart, not hidden entirely, just placed where its presence can be tolerated. You begin early, as you always do. The hides arrived yesterday, stiff and heavy, still holding the shape of the animals they once were. They are cold now, cold and unyielding. You lift one, it resists. You do not hurry. Haste ruins hides. Water fills the first vat. Cold, drawn from the same source others use for drinking, though no one drinks it here anymore. You submerge the hide. It darkens immediately, absorbing moisture. This is only the first step. There are many, each one slow, each one necessary. Tanning is not a single skill. It is a sequence of tolerances. You tolerate cold water soaking into your sleeves. You tolerate the smell that never fully leaves this place. You tolerate isolation. You work mostly alone. Others do not linger. The vats line the ground, some filled, some waiting. Lime solution. Water. Bark steeping slowly. You know which is which without labels. Your hands remember. Hair must be loosened, not torn, not rushed. You scrape carefully, blade angled just so, peeling away what is no longer needed. Your arms ache. You pause only when grip begins to slip. Blood is long gone from the hides, but the work still demands respect. Carelessness damages the surface. Damaged leather fails later when someone depends on it most. Cold settles into your bones. The ground never fully warms here. Even in summer, the vats remain cool, shaded damp. Your feet grow numb. You shift your weight, slowly. Sudden movements splash liquid you would rather not wear. The smell follows you, not aggressively, not dramatically. It clings. You notice it less than others do. Familiarity dulls reaction, but it never disappears. Time stretches in this work. Hides soak for days, sometimes weeks. You check them daily, touching, pressing, testing flexibility. Progress is felt, not seen. There are seasons when work overwhelms you. After slaughter, before winter, hides pile up. You work longer hours, your hands split deeper. Sleep shortens, you continue. Leather will be needed for shoes, for straps, for harnesses. Cold weather makes failure more costly. You do not think about who will use the finished leather. That is not helpful. You think about the hide in front of you, the texture, the resistance, the smell of bark and dampness. Presence matters more than imagination. When leather is finally ready, it looks unremarkable, flexible, strong, quiet. It leaves your space and enters the town. There it becomes something useful. No one asks where it came from. That is expected. At the end of the day, you rinse your hands. The water turns cloudy. Your skin feels raw beneath it. You dry them carefully, slowly. Tomorrow will require them again. Tanning never truly ends. Even when you sleep, hides soak. Time works alongside you. And in the morning you will return. You are awake before the town, but far from it. The land opens wide around you, rolling and uneven, marked by paths that exist only because you have walked them so often. You are the shepherd. Your work is not loud. It is not fast. It does not gather people. It stretches outward into weather and distance. The flock moves as one body, not tightly, not neatly. Animals drift, pause, resume. You watch for patterns, a missing shape, a hesitation that lasts too long. Counting becomes instinct. You count without numbers. You know how many should be there. Morning arrives gradually. Cold lingers in the grass. Dampness soaks into your boots. You stand, staff resting against your shoulder, weight shifting from one leg to the other. There is little to do at first. That does not mean the work is light. Shepherding is endurance. Long hours of attention broken by nothing happening. You stay alert. You scan the edges of the flock. You listen to wind and bells. Sound travels differently out here. A bell gone quiet means something. Not immediately dangerous, but worth noticing. You move slowly. Quick movements scatter the animals. Calm movement keeps them together. You guide rather than force. Your voice is low. Shouting startles. Weather presses in. Wind carries cold through wool. Clouds threaten rain without warning. You do not return to shelter unless necessary. The flock needs to graze. Delay costs weight. Weight costs survival. Food is simple. Bread, sometimes cheese. You eat standing. Sitting too long stiffens joints. Your body learns to conserve heat. As the day stretches, fatigue settles. Not suddenly. It spreads like fog. Your eyes ache from scanning distance. Your shoulders sag. You do not lie down. Sleep comes in fragments later. Predators are not dramatic here. They do not rush. They test. You watch for movement that does not belong. A shift in the flock. A ripple. You step forward. Often that is enough. Loss happens quietly. An animal lags. An animal falls. Sometimes you find it later. Sometimes you do not. The flock moves on. This is understood. By evening, light fades. The flock tightens instinctively. You guide them back. Your legs are heavy. Your hands are stiff. The bells sound closer together now. Night arrives. You bed down nearby. Not fully asleep. Never fully. You listen. The land breathes around you. Tomorrow will be much the same. That is the point. Darkness spreads slowly over the town. Not a sudden blackness. A creeping weight shifting across rooftops and narrow alleys. You are the night watchman. Your work begins when others rest. When doors close and shutters creak shut. When the only movement is the occasional animal or distant wind through chimneys. Your eyes adjust to the darkness. Shadows are not empty. They are full of possibility. Shapes bend and stretch as you walk the streets. Your footsteps are quiet, measured, purposeful. Noise invites attention, and attention is unwanted. You carry a lantern, not for you, not entirely. The soft flame illuminates enough to see hazard stone edges, uneven paths, stray barrels, but not so much that it draws unnecessary notice. You move along your familiar route. Every corner is known, every shadow mapped, every echo anticipated. The night is long. Time stretches differently now. You mark it by sounds rather than hours, the creak of a hinge, the distant bark of a dog. the sigh of wind over rooftops. Each repetition of sound anchors you. Each silence signals caution. Your body is tense, but not painfully. Fatigue lingers from the day, but adrenaline or perhaps habit keeps you upright. Your hands hover near your weapon, not for immediate action, but as a readiness that never rests. You notice small things others do not. A door left slightly ajar, a loose shutter rattling faintly. Footprints in the mud that should have dried long ago. The watchman's work is not heroic. It is endurance, attentiveness, patience. Sometimes nothing happens. Hours may pass without incident. This is normal. When something does happen, it is subtle. A shadow moves differently. A quiet argument drifts from a window. A stray animal wanders where it should not. You adjust, but only minimally. Intervention is calm, considered, deliberate. Overreaction disrupts the rhythm. Cold night presses in. Breath fogs and thin clouds. Your cloak absorbs damp and frost. Your gloves stiffen. Sleep is a distant thought. It may come in fragments when the lantern dims or your steps pause. But the night waits for no one. By midnight you are a ghost among ghosts. You walk streets familiar yet strange in darkness. Stone walls close around you. The river murmurs nearby. Smoke drifts from chimneys. The town exhales slowly while you move. This work leaves little trace. No one remembers your passage. No one will record it. And yet it matters. It shapes the town's safety, hour by hour, silently. Eventually dawn approaches. The weight of the night eases. Shadows shorten. Lantern light becomes unnecessary. The town begins to stir again, unaware that you have already kept watch for hours. Animals move. Doors open. The rhythm of the day resumes. You step aside. Your role dissolves, quietly, but it will return tomorrow. You work where few eyes follow, where silence is expected, and attention rarely lingers. You are the latrine keeper. Your tasks are not celebrated. They are necessary. They are constant, and they are vital. Stone and wood are your domain. Seats carved or assembled for others' comfort, channels beneath it carry away what must not linger. Your work is to maintain flow, to prevent stagnation, to prevent collapse. You begin early, before the town stirs fully. Your tools are simple: bucket, brush, water, scoop. You move carefully. Even small errors spread consequences. Blockages must be cleared. Waste must be disposed of safely. The work is physical, repetitive, and precise. The smell is constant, not sudden, not dramatic. It settles into your clothing, your hair, your skin. You do not notice it after years. Others would not tolerate it for long. You work alone. No one is present to observe or judge. You are unseen, but essential. Stone stairs, wooden walkways, channels carved into the earth. You move along them deliberately. Slips are not only embarrassing, they are dangerous. Your hands are rough. Your arms strong from lifting buckets filled with liquid you do not wish to touch more than necessary. The rhythm is slow. Dip, sweep, pour, adjust, repeat. You measure success in quiet ways. No overflow. No blockages. No complaints. These are rare forms of acknowledgement. Time passes without markers. The sun rises outside. Children may play nearby. Cows and horses are fed. All continue unaware of your labor. And yet their comfort depends on it. The work shapes endurance. Your back stiffens. Hands blister. Arms ache from repetition. You accept it. It is part of survival. Your sleep is lighter. You rest knowing that neglect could cause slow, invisible harm. By afternoon, the latrine is functional once more. The town is unaware of your success. It is only noticed when it is absent. And absence, brings immediate strain. You step away quietly, returning to other duties or brief rest. Tomorrow the process repeats. It will never end. And that is precisely the point. In this quiet persistence the town thrives, not through notice or praise, but through work done consistently, carefully, invisibly. You are part of a chain that supports life without spectacle, without celebration, without recognition. You are essential. You move slowly along the cobblestones, long before most of the town even notices the day. You are the road sweeper. The work is quiet, repetitive, uncelebrated. But without it, the town would falter in small, persistent ways. Dirt and mud collect easily. After rain, after carts pass, after animals wander. It accumulates in corners and between stones. Your task is simple in description, remove it. But in practice it requires attentiveness and endurance. You lift broom after broom, sweep after sweep. The bristles scratch softly against stone, dust rising in thin clouds with each stroke. You inhale a little. The sensation is familiar, grounding. The sound is steady, almost hypnotic. You notice small details, a crack in the stone, a loose cobble, a section where water pools after rainfall. These things matter. Small imperfections worsen over time. If ignored, they become obstacles for carts, for animals, for the people who move through this space daily. The town remains asleep. You are mostly unseen. Occasionally, a dog follows your progress, or a cat slips between stones. Your attention shifts briefly, then returns to the task. Every sweep is a meditation. Work continues regardless of weather. Cold air bites through your cloak. Rain soaks boots and gloves. Snow obscures stones, hiding irregularities. You endure it all. Time loses meaning. You mark it only by how many streets have been cleared, how many corners are free of mud, how many drains run unblocked. You rest briefly against a wall. Dust settles on your sleeves. Your back aches from repeated bending. Hands blister from the broom's friction. You do not complain. The work is not for accolades. It is for continuity. Children may later run along the streets you clear. Merchants may wheel carts. Animals may stumble less often. No one considers the labor it took to ensure these small conveniences. No one praises you. And yet, if you stop, the town immediately feels the difference. By midday, the streets are passable. Not perfect, but functional. The dust and mud will return. Carts will pass. Animals will roam. And you will return tomorrow. The work never ends. It simply continues. You step back and observe briefly. Cobblestones clean, drains unobstructed, shadows lengthen. The town stirs. Your labor recedes into the background, invisible, necessary, silent. This is how medieval towns endured, not through grand gestures, but through repeated, quiet effort, the work that kept society running without fanfare. You are part of that machinery, steady, enduring, forgotten, and yet indispensable. You sit before a desk, the light weak and uneven, filtered through a small window, and the glow of a single candle. You are the apprentice scribe. Your hands are steady but not yet practiced. Your eyes strain against dim light. Your task is repetition, precision, patience. You copy letters, one by one, careful not to blot the ink, careful not to tear the fragile parchment. Each stroke matters. Every small deviation is noted, and someday it will be your own work judged by these standards. The day begins slowly. You inhale the faint smell of ink, the faintly musty scent of parchment. The desk creaks as you adjust posture. The quill scratches softly against the page. The sound is almost hypnotic. You work in intervals. Hands tire. Eyes ache. Neck stiffens. And yet you persist. Each page completed is a step toward mastery. Each line written is part of a future you cannot yet fully see. Errors are subtle but meaningful. A crooked stroke, a smudge, an uneven margin. Your master corrects gently. You adjust. You learn. This is how skill is built, slowly, deliberately. Outside, the town continues unaware. Carts rumble. Dogs bark. Smoke rises from chimneys. None of this intrudes. Your world is small, contained within the desk, the ink, the parchment. Time stretches. Morning moves toward afternoon. Afternoon drifts into evening. You do not notice it except by the candlelight's fading. Your shadow lengthens across the page. Your hand steadies. Your rhythm continues. The work shapes more than skill, patience, endurance, observation. You learn to see detail others ignore, to read what is not spoken, to measure space and proportion with precision. It is quiet preparation for a life built not on immediacy, but on legacy. Mistakes are tolerated. Slow progress is accepted. The value lies in consistency. No one applauds your labor. The town does not acknowledge it, but books will be read, laws will be recorded, prayers will be preserved, because you did this work, because you persisted. By evening, the candle burns low. You pause. Examine your work. Satisfy yourself that it is enough. Tomorrow the ink will wait, the parchment will be ready, and you will return. The apprentice scribe is not celebrated. You are quiet, patient, enduring. But the future owes a debt to your persistence. You enter the workshop just after dawn. The smell of freshly cut oak is heavy in the air. Wood shavings litter the floor. The sun barely illuminates the rough walls of the space. You are the cooper. Your work is quiet, methodical, and essential. Barrels, casks, and buckets are your responsibility. Without you, storage fails, transport falters, and liquids spoil. The first task is selecting wood. Not all boards are suitable. Not all trees have straight grain. You examine each piece carefully. You tap. You listen. You flex. You bend. Each board speaks a subtle language of strength and flexibility. You must interpret it. Shaping begins slowly. Rough staves become carefully tapered. Edges sanded. Curvature tested repeatedly. The fit must be precise. Too loose and the barrel leaks. Too tight and the wood splits. Precision is patience stretched across hours. You assemble the staves, each piece rests against the next. You adjust slightly. Test, remove, replace. Rings are fitted last, hammered carefully into place. Each strike controlled, each motion deliberate. You breathe in rhythm with the work. Time passes quietly. Sunlight moves across the workshop slowly. Dust drifts in the beams. Your arms tire from repeated motions, but your hands remember the sequence. Muscle memory shapes your day. Pain is acknowledged, but never stops you. You inspect finished barrels. One leaks slightly. Another is perfectly sealed. You note imperfections. You correct what you can. Every piece will leave the workshop. Every piece will last months, maybe years. The town relies on it. Your work does not bring admiration. Brewers, merchants, and farmers take the barrels for granted. They only notice when the cask fails. And failure is unacceptable. By evening the workshop smells of sawdust and fresh wood. The floor is littered with shavings. Barrels stand ready, lined along the walls. You step back, observe your day's labor. Not for pride, for satisfaction that it will serve its purpose. Tomorrow you return, and the work begins anew. The cooper's craft is endurance and foresight. Invisible to most, yet without it the town could not store, transport, or preserve the essentials of survival. You are steady, precise, unseen, necessary. You rise while the streets remain quiet. The sun is only a pale promise on the horizon. Inside your workshop, the air is warm with melting tallow and beeswax. You are the candle maker. Your work is essential. Without it, the town's nights would be dark. Without it, work, prayer, and reading would falter. The process is slow. You measure wax carefully, heat it gradually, stir it patiently. Temperature is subtle. Too hot, and it burns or smokes. Too cool, and it refuses to flow smoothly into molds. You learn patience from the wax itself. Wicks are prepared, twisted from flax or hemp, trimmed to precise length. Each wick positioned just so. Too short and the candle will struggle. too long, and it will burn unevenly. Every detail matters. You pour the wax carefully. Molds fill slowly, shimmering pools solidifying gradually as the air cools. You check each candle, adjust imperfections. Smooth the surface. Time moves with the wax. You must move in step with it, not against it. Repetition dominates your day. Pour, trim, adjust, repeat, hands coated faintly in wax, arms tired from lifting molten weight, eyes strained in flickering light. Yet focus remains steady. The scent of wax is thick. Tallow gives a different note. Together they fill the workshop, comforting in their own muted way. Your work is tactile and olfactory. It shapes patience, endurance, and observation. Finished candles are laid aside to harden. They will last weeks, months if cared for. They will light rooms without your presence. Silent, steady, dependable. Your labor disappears into their glow. Time passes almost imperceptibly. Outside, birds begin their calls. Smoke rises from distant chimneys. Shadows shorten. Your hands continue to move, guided by habit and necessity. By evening, candles stand ready. Rows of wax, waiting to cast light into the darkness. The town may not notice your work directly, but every home with fire, every scribe at their desk, every late-night prayer, all rely on the quiet precision you have offered. And tomorrow, the process begins again. Steady, slow, necessary. Candle-making teaches endurance, quiet diligence, respect for time and material. It is invisible, yet essential. Your work literally brings light to the town's life. You are unseen, but indispensable. The town grows quiet at last. Evening drifts into night. Shadows lengthen across streets, fields, and rooftops. The wind carries faint smoke from hearths. The distant river murmurs like a whispered memory. You sit or stand where your work allows. The tasks you completed today, some unseen, some barely noticed, have kept life moving forward. Without fanfare, without applause, the town continues. You reflect on the rhythm of this day. The bell rang, grain was ground, leather was tanned, sheep grazed and returned safely. Streets were swept, parchment was written, barrels were assembled, candles were made. All of it happened quietly. All of it required patience, endurance, and repetition. You notice a pattern now, if you allow yourself to see it. A town is not a building or a marketplace. A town is countless invisible acts, small, persistent efforts, performed by those whose names will fade into memory. You imagine each worker resting. Some lie in beds. Some curl near fires. Some sit quietly, exhausted. Each one feels the subtle ache of a day lived fully, completely, even if silently. And you realize that life continues not through grand gestures, but through this slow, patient persistence. The night deepens. Stars appear overhead, faint points of light that will guide the hours for travelers, and perhaps for you as well. The streets are empty. The water wheel has stopped turning. The bell rests silent. The mills are still. The sheep sleep. The ink dries. The wax hardens. All work rests, waiting for the next day. You breathe the cold of stone, the warmth of fire, the fatigue in your muscles. All these sensations remind you that you exist in a world shaped by effort, by care, by repetition. You let the quiet settle. The town sleeps around you. Time continues, but softly. The echo of labor fades into silence. No sudden endings, no dramatic conclusions, just the gentle certainty that life endures. Work continues. People continue. You continue, even if the world barely notices. And that, in itself, is enough. The night will pass, morning will return, and tomorrow the rhythm begins again. You may drift into sleep now, or linger in the calm awareness of quiet effort. Either way, the world moves forward because of the invisible, essential, enduring labor of the ordinary. You rest in that knowledge, steady, soft, unnoticed, and yet indispensable.